It's why I wrote my first book, Power and Pain. It's not always a day at the beach unless you expand your notion of beach. You want to make your mind as big as a beach, right? So it doesn't matter what comes up. You're able to smile, to accommodate it, to use it for what it is. And this is why when you started doing this sort of thing, again, this is a deeper dive program, you're no longer window shopping. You're starting to do a real deep spiritual practice here. You're starting to prepare for death here. And so therefore, all these more nuanced, deeper things, you're in a certain way, you're asking for it in the best sense. And that's why strength of view, appropriate supporting community, and all that sort of thing becomes really very, very helpful. Okay? So if there's another live one, I think we got a few more minutes before lunch. And then I'll tell you what my plans are for you with my remaining time, because I just want to give you an overview where I'm going to go with all this. But if there's another live one, that would be great.
Hello, Andrew. Hi. It's great to be on board, and thank you for these magnificent teachings and meditations. I have a question that's actually connected to the start of the course and the domino diagram that you kind of utilized to help us to broaden the space in our mind, and it really got me thinking about the music analogy. So could we analogously compare this to music, and between beats in a piece of music, and that kind of thoughtless joy that we sometimes experience when we're completely transformed in a piece of music? Could we compare that to another passport into the bardos?
Well, what an interesting things to say. So just say a little bit more, because my mind is pinging on several different options, but I want to make sure I'm understanding what you're exactly asking.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of a multi-dimensional question, actually. There are several ways, I guess, I wanted to ask you this, but when we're really immersed in a piece of music to the point where we're getting goosebumps and we really feel connected to source, is that comparative to the kind of referential meditation of widening the gaps in our mind, or is it a different thing because it's a stronger connection to the music and attachment almost?
Yeah, what a great question. I'm a musician. My first degree is in classical piano, so this speaks a lot to me.
Mm-hmm.
Several things come to mind. One is in relation to what we just did here, so let me just situate it briefly with that. And I asked Sonia Rinpoche about this as well to confirm it. When you're working with the processes of subtle body type thing that I'm introducing here, you could say that the subtle body is constituted of sound and light. I'm talking about it more in terms of light this time around, using the references I pinged your way this morning. But the world is made of sound and light, and that means your fundamental body is made of sound and light, including your subtle body. And so the reason I mentioned this is that this is the domain where mantra really works, where sound works, where music touches you. So when you're touched by music, it's your subtle body that's resonating with that sound. You're touched by that sound. And so that's one thing to talk about. The other thing that may be a little bit more applicable to what you're asking, again, if I understand it, it reminds me a little bit, anything can be used to, in a certain sense, lead you or invite you towards the Dharmatop, because everything is the Dharmatop. Everything is actually, again, that's the single source. And so the thing that comes to mind here is what T.S. Eliot once said so beautifully, and I'm mentioning this because this is going to come into play when I do the deity meditation, where T.S. Eliot said something really beautiful. He said, music heard so deeply that you become the music while the music lasts. That's really quite a beautiful statement. You become so absorbed into that music, so resonant with it, so harmonized with it, that it becomes a non-dual experience. And so we can use that experience of music, again, as another type of pointing in transmission, to talk about this kind of non-dual level of knowing and perception, where eventually the music that really, really most deeply touches us is when we actually become that music. And you may notice this the next time you're completely drawn into something. that you actually lose yourself in it. And then what happens is basically through a lightning fast series of contractions, which I will try to point out to you, this is what the practice of open awareness can lead you to, that sound, that music, whatever that experience is, through the process of reference, contraction, pulls you away from it in a lightning fast kind of tachycardia that actually in that moment of contraction creates the sense that I'm hearing that music. So when you're having the experience, you're not hearing it. The music is hearing itself. So when you come out of it through this process of contraction, then you have this. And so this is going to come back into play when we do this meeting the deity meditation. And so again, I want to pause to make sure that's sort of what you're asking. I'm not entirely sure I'm hitting your sweet spot. And if I'm not, feel free to send me in the right direction. That's what comes to mind. Okay.
Yes, that's great, Andrew. Yeah, it was also connected to the kind of the vibrations of sound, because I know there's a lot of technology now that's kind of evolving with, projecting kind of sound into the visual. But yeah, there are so many questions connected to this.
This is a really wonderful, super rich topic. And so I will just leave you because we probably do need to run off for lunch. If you really want to explore this, one of the areas that I find of real interest is it's a sub-school of non-dual Shaiva Tantra called the Spanda tradition. Are you familiar with that school? Look up the SPANDA, the doctrine of vibration. This is a really compelling, one of the 5 principal schools of non-dual Shaiva Tantra. The Spanda, and then a commentary called the Spanda Katakas, is a really interesting exploration of the vibratory nature of reality that I think you may find super interesting. It's kind of like cosmic music, like, the symphony of reality. And I find it extraordinarily interesting. It's really helped me empower my understanding of mantra, the role of sound in healing, and exactly connected to the sort of things that we're exploring here. Because when we talk about sound and light, we're talking about something that still has form, but it's still pretty formless, right? So you're hearing my voice. My voice is conveying something. There's a particular type of form through the sound, but also you can't really touch it. It's kind of formless. Same with light. Light has a particular kind of form. You can feel it, but you can't really touch it, right? So both sound and light are therefore used, and actually Winnicott talked about this, as a type of spiritual transitional object. You can work with sound and light through practices like this, through practices like mantra, through practices like deity yoga, as ways to transition from fully reified form into fully de-reified form. And so in Buddhist languaging, Sambhogakaya, using the analogy of frequency domains and dimensions, it kind of vibrates at the level of sound and light. And so therefore, maybe I'll just leave it at that. Don't get me started. This is a hugely provocative topic. I might recommend for you, in addition to what I just mentioned, the work of Kulreet Chowdhury, Kulreet Chauddary. She wrote a beautiful book called Sound Medicine, where she works with these principles in terms of healing. So this is a really, really big area. It gets me super excited. But for the purposes of time and honoring our break, I probably ought to let it go for now, because otherwise I just won't shut up. So
thank you very much.
Thank you. You're welcome. So thank you, everybody. So this is what I'm going to be doing with you over the next couple of days, just to give you some deeper sense of where we're